Hey, what's up everybody? It's Andy from Clean Swifter and I'm back here to show you another video in my series on refactoring from Martin Fowler's book, Refactoring, Improving the Design of Existing Code. Each week I cover a different refactoring from his book, showing you how to perform it in Swift 3. And this week I'm going to show you a refactoring called Move Method. Now, Move Method is finally one that I'm going to say is like the Mac Daddy of all refactorings. Move method is very similar to ones we've seen before, like extract method. But now what we're looking at here with move method is actually we're going to see how you can move code from one class to an entirely different class. And this is actually, when I think about refactoring in code, you know, it's not so much about changes within a single class. And a lot of the refactorings we've looked at so far are like that, where we're kind of massaging code within a single class. Right now, with move method, this is actually, it might be the first time so far in this book where we're actually going to see how you can take code from one class and move it to another class, all in the sake of refactoring to improve the structure of your existing code. Move method, the reason you're really going to do move method is because you want to keep, a goal of software design is keep coupling between things low. While you want to minimize coupling, you want to maximize cohesion. So what cohesion is like for a given class, how well defined is its task in life? And as soon as one class starts doing a lot of different things, it is now not cohesive. So for instance, you've heard of massive view controllers. Massive view controllers do not have high cohesion. And in fact, they're probably also very tightly coupled to other objects that they interact with. So cohesion and coupling kind of go hand in hand, where things that are highly coupled, are tightly coupled to other objects are also going to have very low cohesion. Where the opposite is sometimes true as well, which is things that are very cohesive are also very loosely coupled to other objects. And that's the design you want to strive for. Loose coupling and high cohesion. And move method is a refactoring that actually is going to let you make changes to two different classes in order to achieve that design goal. So move method that's really the primary motivation for looking at this refactoring, is that when you're going through some code and you see that the code that you're working with that's going to be ultimately be refactored is interacting with another class, and there might be several lines of code all interacting with this other class in stuff where it's kind of like inspecting what I'm going to say is like private instance variables, or even a lot of it's calling a lot of different methods on this other class. That's a kind of thing where if you have a method on a class that is doing a lot of different things on another class, you want to consider moving that method to the other class. And I think a common case where I see this in my iOS code is particularly in UI code with UI elements on screen and what I'm doing to them in UI view controllers. So and let's even get more specific with that example. It's UI labels. So oftentimes in our code, in apps, you're gonna come up with a UI label which has one consistent style across your app, and there might be a couple variations on it depending on like where the label's appearing. But rather than all over your code repeating code to populate this label, instead what you can do, and what I'm going to show you how to do, is create a subclass of that UI label and move a method in a view controller that might be styling that label into that UI label subclass. And while I'm going to show you this on UI label, that can apply to a bunch of other UI kit widgets on the screen as well, like UI text view, UI buttons, anything that you might be on screen that have style on them, where stuff that you might be putting like 5 to 20 lines of code in your view controllers, again, just junking up your view controller, move that to a subclass of the element that you're styling. So let's take a look at how to do it in Swift 3. All right, so in this code snippet right here, there's essentially three different things we're going to be working with. The first is a struct, which represents a name. This might be like your data object, where the name has two strings in it, first and last, and that's a name. Next is a class, main view controller, which is a UI view controller subclass. And the third thing is this empty UI label. Now, just to keep the example simple, I could have added some existing behavior into this UI label subclass, or I even could have omitted it and we could have created it during the refactoring. I didn't do that. Right now it's just empty. So imagine either of those two scenarios however you want, but you'll see how we're going to use this with the refactoring. Now, the interesting thing here in this refactoring is the setup name label method. And this is where we're going to apply the move method refactoring. The move method refactoring at its highest level says that we're going to move this method to a new place. So obviously the first place that we're going to move this, that I would think to move this to, is the name label UI label subclass. So what we can do here is the refactoring advocates literally create the new method in the new class, func setup name label, and then copy and paste the code. This is one of the only times that it's okay to copy paste code. And we can leave the empty shell of the method here right now. We'll go back and fix that. And the first thing we want to hear now is go line by line here and fix whatever syntax errors that come up. And the first one is saying, okay, can't find first name label. That's gone. We're now in the name label subclass, so there's no need to actually tell which label we're going to set it on because it's self, and since we're in Swift, we don't need to call self here. And the three things, it's going to set the text color, text alignment, background color, and text based on, it's our style for the app. Now down here, here's another interesting thing that we need to change. So it's actually setting the text of the label based on the first name from the name struct. All right, this is interesting. So how can we actually, now unfortunately name label doesn't know about name yet. So there's a couple options here. How do we get the first name into this method set name label? Well, there's a couple options. One, we could actually pass in the name itself, and this would compile. Now the thing, by doing this, we're now actually creating a coupling between the UI label and the name struct, which may or may not be desirable. One, I'll just point out, another option where we can prevent that coupling is instead send in the first name directly, which we would know to be a string. And then we would actually need to change this line of code to then use it first name. So that's one option there. I personally like this option because I think it's a little more explicit, and it also doesn't create that coupling between name and the name label. Some would argue, okay, is that again exposing too many details about how the name label is being set up because you need to pass the first name in? Again, I think these are just two debates that you can logically have based on your specific example that you might be applying this refactoring to. So now we have the functionally equivalent set name label method in the name label subclass. Now we need to actually go back to our view controller and make the changes here. First thing we're going to do is delete this that old setup name label method. And now the compiler is telling us, okay, that method no longer exists. What are we going to do? How are we going to call this? Well, we still have the first name label here as an instance variable on the view controller, and I will just now call that method on the label itself. And since name label now requires first name, I will actually pass in first name as a parameter. And it would help if I did get the syntax correct. And there we go. Our refactoring move method has been applied. So there you have it. That's the move method refactoring. And we basically applied it in a way where we cleaned up our view controller. Now, anytime you can do that, in my opinion, it's a win. It's so easy as someone new to developing iOS apps, all the way to even seasoned veterans, to work with code and even create code that results with hundreds of long line view controllers. And there have been pattern after pattern created to try to avoid doing that. And I think knowing the basics about refactorings like move methods, like move method, help you understand some fundamental ways that you can think about tearing those things apart without needing to commit to a whole new framework or a whole new pattern just to result with a cleaner code. So that's the move method refactoring. Again, the reasons you want to do this is really to result with objects that are less coupled, less tightly coupled, and have higher cohesion. And ultimately, you'll even think about better names for methods and better places for those methods to exist. I hope you like this video from cleanswifter.com. This was the move method refactoring from Martin Fowler's book, Refactoring, Improving the Design of Existing Code. You can buy the book in the Amazon affiliate link in the description for this video, and come back next week and I'll have a new refactoring available. Thanks, happy cleaning.